Okay. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Monday Night Ignite. And thank you so much for joining us, whether live or on the replay. And tonight we have Amanda Friedl. Did I get it? No, I've messed it up. Okay, she's going to say it right in a second. I just messed it up again. But anyhow, she'll be able to say it and we'll all have it recorded. So I need to tell you a little bit about Amanda that just makes me want to do better, because I don't have young children at home. And so I know there's a lot of people who do, and what this woman can accomplish in a day is amazing to me. So let me just start by telling you that she has one husband. She has 22 children. She has 13 grandchildren. 22 of the children, out of 22 of the children, 4 are minors. She homeschooled for 23 years, is still doing it. Her oldest is 32. Her youngest is 10. They have a farm, a little, I think it's a hobby farm. Well, you can correct me, but with pigs and ducks and turkeys and chickens and rabbits and dogs and other household pets. I'm not even sure what that means. And they usually have cows and horses, so that's a lot. She runs 2 groups that I know I've benefited from for as long as I've been in them, and I don't even know how long that's been, but for a long time. And that is gold and platinum mingle for when you get to those ranks, you can go into those groups. And she runs some other groups. One is Wise Women, Proverbs for Christian Women on traditional skills and prepping. That's another Facebook group. And then she runs a whole bunch of other ones that I don't even know what they're about, but that's enough already, right? So she is an amazing woman. She is a diamond with Young Living. And I already have a picture printed of your family on my wall that I can't reach right now as inspiration to get my stuff together. So if you can do it, anyone can do it. So thank you so much, and go ahead, and you're all ready to go.
All right, thank you for that introduction and your gracious words. I'm very normal. In fact, when we hit platinum, which is, this lady said to me, she goes, we started the platinum mingle. So we were in gold mingle and we started this platinum mingle because we didn't have one. And this lady said to me, she goes, it's just so encouraging that somebody so normal as you can hit, because then I believe that everybody can hit. And I don't think she knew anything about my life, but it's a true story, because I'm just like actually a very normal middle-aged mom that yells at my kids sometimes because they didn't take out the garbage. So I do believe it is a true story that everybody can do this. And when you have a discouraging day, this is actually about homeschooling specifically, but my friend said to me once, whenever I'm really discouraged, I think at least I'm not Amanda, it could be worse. And I'm like, I don't know how I feel about that, but also maybe it's encouraging. So I am happy to be here, and I'm kind of sad about my topic, but I'm just going to tell you that up front. Like, there's an emotion, and I feel like Carla and I's topic comes in it works really well together, that it is I know, and that wasn't planned, that Carla's going to talk about stress, and then I'm going to talk about building through these like stressful times in the business, and that wasn't planned. And so I think that's beautiful. Although if I had planned it, I would have made pretty slides like Carla did. So it was such a good talk. And they literally, if you're listening to this one and you have not listened to hers about that health aspect, it's so crucial. So, but I am going to talk about building your Young Living business in times of stress. And the most interesting thing about that is that it doesn't have to be a global stress. It didn't have to be building through a pandemic or building through like these global shutdowns or whatever has happened to us in the last 2 years. But let's start with, we're all stressed coming out of those last 2 years. And so many more people than ever before are facing those overwhelming personal stressors that are making building your business more challenging. And along that same line, sometimes people even give up building during those times. So I started with oils tonight. I'm going to highly recommend maybe you grab some oils and join me in oiling up. When I get nervous, I talk faster, which is kind of, when I used to teach homeschool classes, my kids thought that was great. But for tonight, I'll just try and slow myself down before we get started here with some good oils. So oil up with me. We can sit and name all kinds of things that have been really hard, or that individuals we might know right now are going through in this time. And I kind of was sitting here thinking, how do I start this kind of conversation because it's really overwhelming. And some of you may even want to chime in if you've had like a really hard, like just in my very close circle of friends, we've had some death, spouse death, I kind of a lot. I lost my mom last year during a really tough time in, in life with like restrictions and things like that. I'm watching friends walk through marital crises. Some people have pregnancies and sometimes they just go amazingly well. And right now I'm walking one of my team members through one that isn't going to go very well, and they know it. And it's just a lot of burden and a lot of stress with that. Loss of a child. Thankfully I didn't this last year, but we did go through one where my son was in a pickup truck and it was totaled by the semi, and it just was like a traumatic incident. Thankfully he's fine now, but many other of my friends have even lost a child in this last, while we've been doing this business. A dear friend of mine right now is struggling with a husband who's incapacitated just due to illness. And sometimes we know those diseases are oncoming and we can kind of ramp up and prepare for them. And sometimes they hit us out of nowhere. And so for tonight, I want to talk about what it looks like to build your business or to work with others who are building their business during this time. And I hope that I leave you with some practical ideas, because one of the things that I love about this business is when people come beside us and give us something that we can hold on to. So I'm hoping tonight that as we walk through this together, that you can, kind of grab onto some of those things. So I actually shut the blur off. I usually leave it blurred because you can't see it. So I'm hoping you can see this. This is September 8th, 2021. And this is a picture, August 8th, 2021. All right. Do you like those cheaters? I just ordered a Luminize. It's my first sign. One of the things I know is that when you walk through something, it creates in you the opportunity to minister to someone else walking the same path. It doesn't matter what it is. God has created opportunities for you to grow, and through that growth, help others grow. And when that came up on my memories today, literally, I don't know if you guys can see that. I took this picture this morning, wrote it 1 year ago today. When that came up this morning in my memories, I was like, oh, as Stacy might tell you, we went back and forth a little bit on what I should talk about, because there's, some other good things to talk about. And here this is with that text, with this reminder that when we walk through some of these times, some of the very, very best things that we can do is turn around and reach out to somebody behind us walking through those tough times and be with them and help them get to wherever you've gotten to, and maybe even farther, and maybe with ease, in a way that we maybe struggled through, that we could take some of our hardship and come beside people and help them. All right, so just some of the things we've gone through have been horrid. I don't always like to talk about them, and I probably won't, because I did put Savvy mascara on, and we all know that I could, So we're just going to keep talking. It's easy to see that you might want to stop building in those times of hardship. And there's nobody, if you're watching this replay or you're watching right now and you have stopped on your business because life got hard, there's no judgment from me or anybody else that you have done that during this time, because I think we all understand that the natural tendency we have when we get overwhelmed with things is to stop everything that's extra in our life. However, I'm a little bit on the other side of some of my stressors, and I believe truly that my Young Living business gave me this huge benefit, not just financially, but also with a freedom mindset that, like, when I needed to be off of work for, days and days and days and sit in a hospital, kind of like waiting for my mom to die, I didn't have to ask my boss to get time off from work. So there's an element of freedom that I go, oh, I wish everybody had this part also. So because of that, I want to say to you that even if you have stopped or you're kind of in a slow pause, I want you to consider with me tonight just some ideas that might benefit you in maybe a jumping back in. All right. I also want to encourage you that sometimes when we go through a very deep, grievous loss, and we look at things in our life when we're slightly on the other side of it, that we can be tempted to shut off. the things that we were doing when that horrible, horrible thing happened. If you have a horrible, horrible tragedy happen in your life, one of the things you sometimes do is separate from the things that were important to you in that moment, because it's a reminder of maybe that person's presence in your life. My mom was my number one leg. She was my number one cheerleader in Young Living and Building. She was not a like go out and go building person, but every single time I go anywhere in a Young Living group or start an event for her area, her name is the first name that shows up. It would be very easy in a even more dramatic issue to say, I have to block all that off. I can't manage that. And I've watched it happen with builders of mine, one who went through a very painful divorce, you know, admitted to me some things that were going on. And then because of that, shut the wall down on Young Living, because it just was too much. It was too fresh. It was too a reminder kind of a thing. So just being able to consider guarding against the thought that because Young Living was an important part of your life when this thing happened to you, that you can't go back to Young Living, because you can, and it can look completely different. And not only that, but you can use your life events to become a catalyst for building. All right. And I've watched this in other situations where a person who's maybe going through a really tough marital situation ends up getting divorced, and instead digs in and grabs onto Young Living and the vehicle of the business as an opportunity to find herself freedom moving forward, financial, etc. So that can look very different. A dear friend of mine lost a child, and she's able to speak about emotional support in a way that is very positive and can help other people because of what she's gone through. And that can be true in the physical realm as well. If you go through, you know, a disease and Young Living has been part of your supports, it's going to be a great opportunity to continue sharing. So many other people need these tools. And Carla had some great ideas tonight. We can maybe get there. I'm also want to be very careful. When I started building Young Living, I had 14 kids at home, 3 in college. My husband was a pastor full time, and I used Young Living as an escape tool. Meaning I escaped some of the hard in my own life. Some of my adopted teenagers were traumatic in their expressions. I wanted to say this in a really graceful way, and I should probably practice it. But I found great success in building Young Living. And because of that, I was able to avoid some of the icky that is here. I want to suggest to you tonight that you can't turn to your business during a time of crisis to necessarily avoid dealing with your emotions. Avoidance can't be your reason for building your business. Success in your business can be a positive light to a dark situation, but there's balance in that. And so I just want to encourage you, if you're in this season right now, to take that time that you also need for healing, because you're not going to be able to help other people looking back if you haven't dealt with some of the emotional trauma that we're doing. All right, so I actually am not reading the comments, and I hope that's okay. We can maybe come back to some of them, but I did bring some, and the word frankincense just popped up. Obviously, first, oil up. Here's my very first tip. Let's just be honest. When we're overwhelmed, we just kind of avoid lots of those things. So write down the oils you want to use, pull them out, literally post it, do whatever you have, put them where you're going to use them, put a reminder on your phone. When my son was totaled his pickup they went into a semi, and they med flighted him, and he believes he was pulled out by somebody that didn't exist. I don't even know what happened to this day. I accidentally drove by the accident on my way to the hospital. But I didn't know where it was. But all of a sudden I pulled up to a stop sign, and in front of me is this semi, and underneath it is like a wheel. And the cop was waving you to this thing. And I was like, is that a red pickup? And like, but that vision in my head is horrific, right? So I set a timer for frankincense, and I set it every hour. And I just 1 hour on my phone, hit the thing, breathe in my oils. An hour on my phone, hit the thing, breathe in my oils. Okay, I made a list of some of my favorite oils that have helped me a lot. I bet that you might have some great testimonials right here that you can just put in there. And I'm just going to remind you, because sometimes we need to be reminded to take our magnesium, to use our supplements. Oh, that was my next point, but whatever. And use your oils and put them where you're going to have them with you always. So stress, away, or peace and calming. I one of the side effects of having some trauma in my own life is that I have some overwhelming moments, and I am a peace and calming girl. But if you are a stress away person, I do not judge you. Okay, so, but I am peace and calming all the way. I'll pull over on the side of the road if I have to. Um, TOA, the cousin of trauma life. I love it. The smell of it. It's just a bonus. I can't stand joy, but I often need it. So I wear it sometimes just right in my bra. Are there a lot of men on this call? I just told you, but joy is and I rub it over my heart, and people are like, you smell so good. I'm like, I just needed some joy in my life, right? Acceptance, the feelings kit, the freedom release kit. We have so many good tools, but if you aren't using them, you will make, and with intentionality, right? Consistency and a mindset for this. I am so thankful that Carla's whole video went through so many good things, but for me, movement, exercise, grounding my feet outside. I live in Iowa, so sometimes that's in snow, so that's less pleasant, but just getting your body moving every single day, getting that, getting outside, getting away, stepping away from whatever's overwhelming you, whatever's in your situation, what maybe it's a family member or it's your own medical stuff staring in your face. Put your phone inside, walk away from it for a bit, and then come back to it when you can. So, all right, some other tips for if you're in this time of great stress. I want to encourage you that one of the things that we tend to do in overwhelming moments is draw into ourselves and into our own situation. And it is so big, we can't do other things outside of it, right? However, we have people in our lives who can. And one of the most amazing things for me has been watching the Young Living family step into play when these things happen. And just an example, a friend of mine, her husband passed away. I'm not even in her upline, downline, crossline. I'm probably like 37th cousin twice removed. I said to her, you know what? I do these posts over in this group. Do you want to add me to your group? I could do these posts in your group for you and just take care of that for a while. And so it can be an upline person. And sometimes we all have amazing upline people. And it can be a downline person. When my upline lost her son, it was something that I could take on. This is something I could do. I was able to, thankfully, with the Young Living Freedom, go to her house states away and be there, but also step into that role of supporting her team. And so you might have downline who have that ability. Now, my very first overwhelming incident happened in Young Living before I even had a Facebook group, or like, I don't know if I had 12 people under me. My husband lost his job, and that was a very overwhelming situation. 14 kids at home, 3 in college, 3 months severance. And he's like, I can get a new job and we can move. And I said, yeah, or we could do this oil thing. It looks like it's going to go pretty well. But it was a really overwhelming emotional thing. So if you don't have a Facebook group, you don't have to, do something magical. It can be text on a phone, or it could be an email group, but upline, downline, crossline. And if you ask people who are maybe a little bit newer to Young Living, this is a great opportunity for them to find growth and education by preparing for these posts, or a video spot, or an email that you're going to send. If they could do a paragraph about one of their favorite oils and how they've used it in the last week. And maybe they would do that over the course of, 12 weeks and do the starter kit oils for you or something like that. But if you ask people to help you, and there's a cute little meme going around. The cute little meme says, and I've shared it on my wall, so you can go find it and scroll back and read it. And it basically says, when you're in grief, you want somebody to say, at 2:00 today, I'm bringing you snacks for your kids and maybe a free DVD, right? Like, you want somebody to know what you need and to provide it. And it's really, we'll get to, like, if you have somebody struggling, we want to be that person for them. We'll get there. But if you're in this place of great need, and I know that we're overwhelmed, it's okay to be specific about what we want and what we need from somebody, because it is your business. And it doesn't matter what your rank is, but at the end of the day, you are that owner of your business. And if your hope is that you're going to have a business on the other side of your time, growing, hopefully, or maintaining it, because nobody wants to lose what they've already invested all their time and energy into, that opportunity it's okay to make a list of what you need to have done. And then ask somebody to make a list or ask somebody to make a list for you, and then get volunteers. So if you are, the depths of stressful situations can be anything from, well, we had 2 kids break legs within like 4 days of each other. So that was pretty stressful. My husband was in ICU last summer with my one son who was on a vent for 4 weeks. So it might be time where you say, I need help. Can anybody do X, Y, Z? But it doesn't, you can be specific because it's your business, right? And I think sometimes we think we don't want to tell people what to do, but we can't have a hope that people are just going to know or fill in the blank. And I'm going to tell you as a leader on the other side of this conversation that we can do that we can be that body for those people. But in this moment, it's okay to ask for help. And people are happy to help. And if you want something done a certain way, you can tell them how you want it done. One of the moments that was very, very enlightening to me when I started thinking about this topic is I was sitting at my upline's house and she had lost her baby. He was not expected to die. He was young. And she was randomly scrolling Facebook because she was waiting for a family member to get back with her. Okay. And somebody sent her a business question, a Young Living business question, and said, well, I saw that you were on, so I knew you would answer. And I thought to myself, in this business where we're on Instagram or we're on Snapchat or on Facebook and people see that you're active, the expectation when you're in a stressful situation can't be that you're always available either. So it's okay to be gone from your devices, and it's okay to be on your devices too. And whether you set up, even just on your note, instead of copy and paste, hey, I'm not able to help with that right now, please ask Amanda. That would be a really easy thing. The night my mom passed away, we had a really huge Young Living launch. And I was able to say to a small group of friends, I need help. And I had people step forward to cover what I needed during that time. And I just want you to know that it's okay to have that statement prepared so that if somebody's coming back to you with, I need something, that you can say, I'm not available right now. Please see so-and-so, and just copy and paste it over and over if you need to. You can figure out how you want to communicate that you're not available or when you are available ahead of, like during this time. Do you want to text people or email? And maybe you want to do going out and just say, I'm not going to be available during this time. Please contact your upline, and here's their phone number and here's their email, and let people know. Now, sometimes these periods of stressful situations are a very short period of time, and sometimes they're a much longer time. I didn't know when my mom passed away that for probably 4 months, I'd be spending about 2 weeks a month up with my dad. And that's been a really blessed time. I was telling Stacy on the phone today, I pulled in for my dad's today at 5 o'clock my time and was there for 3 days. I'll be back this week yet for 2 more days, and it's 5 hours away. So that has increased a stressful situation that I now need to be, and it's been very long. We're over a year. However, you don't necessarily know when the situations happen, what your timeline is going to be. And I think it's okay to say to people, during this time, I'm only going to be checking my voicemail once a week. Please contact Young Living customer support. Okay. Or some semblance of that. You're able to give directions to people so that they know how to get support. And it doesn't have to be you. A lot of us take a lot of ownership in our businesses, but it's okay to step away. And it's good for us to step away when we're in those overwhelming times. On that same hand, it's okay to set yourself some time blocks where you want to do your work. If you want to do work, then go ahead and give yourself that grace too. One of the things that's really important to me, as I am homeschooling for this fall, I've got a few other things in the fire. I'm up at my dad's quite frequently. So I time block a lot of my tasks. I put them into a calendar and I plan for them. That doesn't mean I can't give myself grace if I can't do something or can't complete it. However, if I don't write things down, they're less likely to happen in certain seasons. So you may also find that thing to be true as you are in a stressful situation. For me, if it wasn't written down, it just wasn't going to happen. If you needed something from me, the best way was email, because that was a better paper trail than me trying to remember if I had answered a text. All right. So that's just a personal thing that you may want to know. Now, sometimes we know that we're going to be out of the loop for a certain season. For instance, we may be in the hospital, going to have a surgery and have a recovery period. In fact, right now I was thinking today, our diamonds are certainly active folks, and sometimes they get really active and have accidents, and they end up having to rehab those body parts for a little bit. As that's happened, if like I'm now going to be away, we need to now start to think about, how do we plan those things? You can pre-post, you can schedule your posts, you can pre-arrange who's going to come in, maybe some guest speakers. You can pre-discuss what that looks like. One thing I do almost every year in about this time period is I try and set good expectations with my team about my availability during the school day. So it might look like, oh, I homeschool from this time to this time, I won't be available. But if you know you're going to be off for a longer season, you could just say, make sure people are aware of that and decide how you're going to communicate it. Now, many, many times, I was going to say this one other thing. One thing I did that was really successful, and this is kind of a while ago, so I kind of reached back in the archives of my brain, but when I knew I was going to be overwhelmed for a certain period of time, I picked a book that we could work through together as part of our training program. And you could do this for business or product. Like you could pick the new supplement book from Growing Healthy Homes, or you could pick, the 4-year career or something like that, and pick a book to go through together where you have to create less content for a certain period of time. That was something I did that was really successful, because if we're all reading it, we can discuss it together and it doesn't require quite as much during that time. All right. Now, one of the things that has happened in my life that maybe might resonate with some of you is that I didn't tell people I was going to be less available for a season. Maybe I missed some phone calls or didn't get back to somebody. And maybe I've dropped some balls during a time of great stress. So when I'm trying to hop back in or return after that stressful time, I wanted to let you know first off that everybody has an understanding that life has these seasons. And if they don't, they unfortunately eventually will learn it, right? So we can apologize to people for being absent for a period of time. I talked to a lady just in the last couple of weeks, and she actually hadn't posted in our Facebook group for 3 months. And she's like, how do I start back in? And I said, I think you tell them, I'm sorry, my life got really overwhelming. I am really looking forward to catching up with all of you. And, I'm sorry I wasn't here, but if you need me, I'm here now. And I know that you maybe have stepped into new routines. I can't wait to learn more about them. So you can ask for grace. Lots of people understand that. I think one thing that's really important at this moment is to try and figure out where they're at in their own life. So one thing that I personally do, I hope you don't think I'm stalker-like, but I make a list of names and I go look at their walls also, because there would be absolutely nothing worse than me trying to do a Young Living care call and finding out that they are in their own super huge stressful situation without knowing. So try and figure out a little bit about what's been going on in their life while you've been away. Once you're back and you feel good about that time being spent that way, re-engage with where they're at. Maybe you can start commenting on their Instagram or Facebook again. There's going to be a separate side to that return and re-engagement that is that's kind of our outward focus side and our customer focus side. When we're building our business, let's be honest. Sometimes if you step away for a weekend, you might miss a Young Living thing, right? Like all of a sudden you'll step away and you'll find out, oh, they had a sale a week ago Monday and I was at the zoo with my kids. So those things happen, and there are changes in Young Living that happen on a regular basis. So when you've been out for a season, I would want to encourage you to reach up to your upline and just ask, do you have a video on some changes that, could you recommend? I've been gone since XYZ. What things would you like to, do you think that I should know about before I jump back into the business? And you could ask to have a Zoom meeting with somebody who's in the know in your structure, in your family tree, because I think that can also be really important. I think sometimes people don't want to come back or re-engage because they think that they can't figure out what's different fast enough. And I want to encourage you that that can be anybody. Like sometimes people think that this is unique to them. There are people who I talked to one today and she's like, but did this thing change? And she's like, how did I miss this? They're tiny details. And if we can't absorb them in the moment, it doesn't mean that we might not need them later on. It's okay to say, you know, I've been out of the loop for 3 or 4 months. What do I need to know to help my team better? And you can even, if you give a date, you know, kind of, I could say, okay, well, you know what? This could be summarized in like 3 minutes. I'll send you a voice message. And maybe you might want to watch this Zoom link that we did together about this change, and then get back to me if anything doesn't make sense. Or practice walking yourself through signing somebody up and see how it's different right now. And we could do it together even on a Zoom. Okay. So find out what kinds of things like that might step into place so that you feel confident, whether it's sharing the product or the business, and figure out if there's something that you want to know so that you feel better about it. Okay. You may know people in this season right now, in the season of hard, in a season where they're overwhelmed, where their business is struggling. They may be downline to you. They may be upline to you or crossline to you, or just a young living friend, pretty far removed. I want to encourage you before we wrap up with anything tangible at all, that it's really a neat thing to see in the body of Young Living, the family of Young Living, when people come together and step into those holes for each other, right? So we have a Young Living Diamond whose child has cancer. We can be her support team in her group. Like, I'm not a diamond. And maybe not, that means just not enough people know about your situation, but I want to encourage you that somebody does. And there is somebody who will help you with that care of your people. So if we, as the Young Living family, can step into that gap, helping them, supporting them. Think of this, nobody will probably ever tell you to do this, but let's say that you have somebody you've signed up and they are a business builder, and it doesn't matter if they are they've signed up 1 person or they've signed up 100 people. But what if you started a note on your phone, and if you felt something big in Young Living was on there, you just put the date and like a word or 2 to remind you what it was, so that if they come back after 3 weeks being out of the loop, you can be like, oh, I told your people about this, but I did, you know, I just want you to be aware when they're in a good space, right? But nobody's ever going to tell us to do that for our people. It's you have to kind of figure out, this is a hole I can step into. And don't assume that they see anything. Unfortunately, one of the very saddest things I've seen is when people are like, why, you saw it? Well, how do you, even if you see something when you're in horrible grief or horrible overwhelm, you don't see it. You use mindless scrolling on Facebook or Instagram to pass the time and take your attention away from, you know, maybe a little heart monitor. So we can't assume anything about anybody's situation, but we can be there to support them through it. You can offer to take over some classes for them. At one time, I'm in this YL Iowa group, and that's where I am. And this lady called me and she's like, I can't do my class tomorrow night. It was like 3.5 hours from my house. She's like, can you do this class for me? She wasn't in my downline. She wasn't in my upline. She just needed somebody to come teach a class for her because she was in a family crisis. You know what? There are people in Young Living who will go do this for you. It's true. Because we have that kind of support network, and there is nothing better than our family and our team and our environment. And so I slept off to some tiny town I'd never been to before, met 3 people at a library and walked them through using the raindrop kit. And you can have those sorts of things because of Young Living. We can be that team for each other because people who've stepped in and helped me. So maybe it's offering to do a class, offering to step in for any things that they might have. I'm not taking any enrollments from that. I'm just being that person's hands and, well, actually mouth and hands. I was gonna say hands and feet, but really that it didn't make as much sense. But like mouth and hands to pass around the oils and smell them, etc. during that time, so that we can be that support for them. Offer to become a regular contributor for them or help them write some content. Especially if you're already doing your own, it really isn't that hard to transfer that to another team. And just be there, maybe even remind them to use their oils, or just ask them, did you get to go breathe outside today? and be that person who can help support during this crisis, because those are the people that help us get through. And I think that's part of the reason that even after horrible times of crisis, I would never consider leaving Young Living, is because this has been our support team during those times. So I think I had one more thing and I got out of order at one point and it didn't go. So do you want to stop the video recording or take questions first?
Let's do questions.
I accidentally.
Okay, just one second. Carla, just saying, I wrote it down. There is no better community than Young Living, and the friends and the camaraderie and the support for each other. And I do love, I'm just gonna say this since this is a business section, I love that you said you didn't take any of the enrollments. Because I had someone ask me one time, and I was going to teach a class for somebody, and they said, well, if you go for me, are you going to take the enrollments? I'm like, no, why would I? But obviously people ask because there are people who do that. So, you know, it's great that I love that you said that. But let me go, I have to put my readers on as well. Okay. There's something like that.
Yeah, I think it's just a neat opportunity that we can step in and fill those gaps, because I believe what we reap is what we sow. And so that's my heart when I'm helping somebody from another team ever, is that we have that thing. And Jordan, I'm going to go back and read the comments here a little bit, but I believe so too. It's our biggest support.
Someone said, forgive me, I don't remember who, but they said, Jill says, don't make your business your mistress. I wrote that down. I thought that was, that is interesting. And I love that you said set a timer, because, you know, whether it's to contact someone or, you know, use your products, you know, we are supposed to be products of the product. And has anyone ever had like a bad day, but you don't want to go put your white angelica or joy on? Like, why are we suffering on purpose here? It doesn't even make any sense. But those things do make a difference.
It's actually one of those things that, like, if you're avoiding it, you really need just to go find it right now. And I literally, right before we started, was dumping Valor on my head in a large quantity. I was just like drip, 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 because you have to use them. And honestly, one of the things somebody could do for somebody during a hard time is literally, don't forget to take cortisol. Don't forget to get out your Idaho balsam fir. Don't forget to put your XYZ on your order, because sometimes you need to be reminded and told. I don't know how many people we've walked through this when there is a unfortunate something in their life happening and they get the same loyalty reward order for 2 or 3 months in a row. What a great opportunity for us to step in and say, oh, hey, can I help? Just, you know, do you want me to take care of that for you? Do you want me to, you know, hold it for a month? Or should I call it in, just delay your order? I can think of 3 or 4 deaths in the last few years where I'm like, something happened and you know that their loyalty order is 2 days later. Pause that. You know, this is that moment where we can step in and find those opportunities just to speak in. And Leanne, one of the things I do with emotional oils is I Epsom salt bath and then plan it in a time where it's safe and I can go to bed. I don't necessarily do a lot of emotional oils right before I get on a Zoom or right before I have to go pick up my kids at practice, because I don't want to be a blubbery mess. I want to do it when I'm in a safe, good place to be able to find that release that I need. So I hear you on that. That is not just a you. That is Epsom salt bath, all the oils, and then when you cry in the tub, you can still wash your face off. And then I like grounding after I'm done being really emotional. You can use peace and calming or lots of, we'll get some more up here, but know which ones are going to be one of those oils that can, okay, bring it back together. So super good.
So someone asked, why would you use joy on your butt? Did you see that?
No.
I put it in the comments, so I was just trying to make you stumble. So I always tell people, like, you know, I don't like the smell of joy either, but if you mix joy and peace and calming, they don't smell that bad together. But if you don't like the smell of an oil and you need it, you know, take it in a capsule, rub it on your feet or the bottom of your butt, like who's smelling this stuff, right? And to still always breathe it in with over your nose and your mouth. I always try to do like 10 times to the nose, 10 times to the mouth, and really just give yourself a second to like sit here and breathe this in and like the reverence of what this is supposed to do for you. Then if you have to, because you just put vetiver all over your hands, you could go wash them if you had to, right? But that's why I said on the butt. But one thing we used to do with my younger son when he was little, I don't know, maybe he was like 10 years old or whatever. And I mean, this kid's glass was half full, it was half empty. He'd be singing, then he'd be crying. I was like, oh my gosh, like what is happening here? And so we would put white Angelica and Joy on the bottom of his feet. He didn't want to smell like white Angelica and Joy. He's a boy, right? And so we would put it on his feet. He put his socks and shoes on so no one could smell it. But the days, like literally if Steve or I forgot, I would like, dude, did you not put the stuff on his feet today? He's like, oh, I forgot. I'm like, I mean, time he got home from the bus, you could tell. I mean, it was just like, how'd your day go? It's like, well, I fell on the way of the bus and then I tripped down when I got there. I mean, the whole day rundown. So when we use the oils, of course, we're learning about chemical awareness at the same time and getting rid of MSG and all this kind of stuff. But we use those oils for the longest time ever. We put the peppermint in the hair because of lice and bugs at school, right? And if it wasn't during the summer months, I'd always put orange all over his face because he just loved the smell of it. And literally it just make him happier. So helping out your family, your kids. I know my aunt, I know my uncle won't be listening to this, but my uncle was like a little, negative kind of thing. And so like took after my grandpa, which my grandpa would say, I wonder if Arthur's going to visit me today. I'm like, who's Arthur? He's like, arthritis. And I was like, Grandpa, you can't be thinking about this already, So anyhow, of course, my uncle wanted his feet rubbed and whatever. So my aunt would rub him and she just started putting Joy all over his feet. And so, and she said she really noticed a difference, and he even noticed a difference of his positivity, changing, not, some of us have been perhaps a little humdrum, right? Or a negative or something, not saying he is, but people can be bent a certain way, whether it's a nutritional deficiency or situations happening in life. And we don't drive in California unless we have the diffuser going for real with peace and calming, because like road rage, you know what I mean? So you can like use this in so many ways. Go ahead, Amanda.
We don't have that problem too much in Iowa because it's just tractors and other cars. We don't have that problem. But I'm just to say, like, if you can be intentional about starting your diffuser, set an alarm, not just to wake up, but set a second alarm to start all the diffusers in your house, because you can change the entire chemistry of your home with our products. And it's not just great for our businesses and our mindset. It's great for our families, and it's great for all the other customers we're going to be able to help down the road. And so we have 3 timers to set our diffusers every day on my phone that pop up. And so we set them at 9, 1, and at 6. And it really makes a difference in your home, just the smell. And so there's tiny, tiny tricks you can do that will help your brain engage. And I do orange in everything. So there's orange sitting by every diffuser because I do get a little overwhelmed, and orange always can relax my overwhelm and just make me happy and smile. And so I loved Carla's point. So I know that not everybody's going to be able to read the comments if you're watching the replay, but she said joy often encourages us to deal with our grief rather than stuff it. And that's, in her experience, why so many people do not enjoy joy. And I think that that's really true. It was an oil that was in our starter kit for a while. And I have been working for a lot of years on like my speech and what I'm saying about things and what I'm assuming about people and my own mindset. And so here I was many years ago when Joy was in the starter kit, and I would pass the oils around and I would open them and I would smell them and I'd be like, and here's peace and calming. And I'm like, oh, it smells so good. And then I'd pass around and here's stress away. And if you ever see a Baptist pastor's wife and she's inhaling out of a bottle, she's smelling this, because I call it mama crack, and I pass it around. And then I get to Joy and I would take it and hand it with the lid on, and here's Joy. And here's one very practical application that you can use it for. And let's just move on to Pan Away, because we all know you all need it, right? So that mindset thing, I had this thing about using joy, and my husband had just lost his job and I didn't have a lot of it. And I went to my very first care workshop, and we had to do the emotional release. And of course I needed joy. And so forevermore, I've worked to be intentional about using it, and also to be intentional about working through my own emotions so that I can come and walk beside other people who have big emotions too. So, okay, Yes, orange is not your favorite. Well, Gail, that does surprise me because I love orange, but maybe you have another citrus you love and you can just work to add some orange into your life. So I think it's a profound. Oh, so Carla, I wish you were, we've lost Carla's face. She says, encourage everybody to put one drop in your diffuser and run it. You may not be able to smell it at all, but the positive effects will be experienced by the brain. And I think the same thing you were saying, Stacey, just a little bit ago about putting joy on your butt, which I've never ever said before. But you can spray it places and then not be right there and still get the benefits of it. You can spray it in an underwear drawer. You can spray it on pillows. It won't even smell like joy much when you go to like lay down to go to sleep. It kind of changes in the room, but you're going to get some of those great benefits. So go ahead, Carla.
There's some really cool research that was done as to if you are not aware of the scent, are you still getting the benefits? And it was done with people, they had them in EEG, machines, caps on their head while they were sleeping, and then they released the scent while they were unconscious and they were asleep. And the positive effects still happened in the brain. So, I mean, it's not always, but if you know the book, Releasing Emotional Patterns with Essential Oil, if I have someone that either hates an oil and it just smells like cat pee or whatever, I encourage them to go look and see what the emotion is. Or even the opposite, if you have an oil that you are obsessed with and you just can't get enough of it, I often encourage them to take a look. And so with the oils that you don't enjoy, I say two things. I say, one, there were a lot of other options in Young Living. We have a lot of oils that do similar things. So you can just migrate to something else and ignore that. Or if you want to work with that, understanding that potentially what's happening is it is nudging your body to go somewhere that your body needs to go and actually wants to go, but you've got the brakes on. Then doing the one drop in a diffuser where it's below the level of scent. And then after a few days, try 2 drops or 3 drops, or super dilute it into a little roller and roll it on the bottom of your feet and put your socks on. And I've had people that went from, I cannot tolerate joy, like I can't even be in the same house if the lid comes off, to I love it. It's now my favorite. And I always see that as a positive thing because I feel like it's helped you to process emotions that when they are just kept stuffed, they will pop up somewhere, somehow, maybe not this year, maybe in 5 years or 10 years, to be something bigger that you don't want to have to deal with. And so that's just my little 2 cents on the oil thing.
It's 100% true. I've watched it happen over and over. And so, it's important to think, yes, we have alternatives, but if you have that kind of visceral response, you might want to figure out the emotional work behind it. So good, Carla.
Has anyone ever heard of if your spouse is grumpy, it's a guy, that you can put like joy in the underwear? If you've heard that, can you just say, yes, I heard that, or joy in the underwear or something? So just sort of funny.
You're going to tell the story, right? So that everybody who's new can hear it.
Well, okay.
Look at these. Here they come.
So true story. Obviously, I don't know who told me that, but we tell everyone that. And so, I said, well, they're going to just think it's like Bounce, because we're teaching people to get rid of Bounce fabric softener or that kind of thing, right? So now when you got some floral scent in a man's underwear drawer, they're just going to think it's Bounce or something like that. And so, so I told this lady about it. She's like, she called me and she told me it didn't work. And I said, what do you mean it didn't work? And she said, well, I was, like you said, she's like, I was putting the joy in there when in his underwear. And I said, and what happened? And she's like, well, he was getting in it and he told me to stop. I said, girl, you got to put in the underwear when he's not looking and then put it in his drawer. So, because, testicles get all hot and sweaty and stuff like that, right? And so it just helps to absorb right into the body. And that alone can really help out with someone's moods. So anyhow, it was just sort of funny. There's so many ways we can use the oils and have fun, and even teaching with our businesses or in classes and making it not so traumatizing or, traumatic or something. So, teaching with oils, with jokes, with humor, And then it helps people not be as worried or scared. And maybe that's because back in the day when I first started, it was, 15 years ago, remember, we didn't even know chia seeds you could use as consumption, right? We just out there chia pets, at least here in Michigan. So, oils and everything was always, people were always so like skittish about oils back in the day. And obviously there's much more awareness to it today, but, teaching with, since it's part of the business, with humor, with laughter, with safety, and learning how people use the safety of the oils with humor helps people remember all those things as well. But anyhow, joy is amazing. I'll have to go read that section in the book.
And I think if you have that spot where you have an oil that you can't do, it's okay to give it to a family member that you trust and say, you figure out how to get this near me. You know what I mean? Like maybe it's spraying my underwear when I walk away, or maybe it's, a drop in your diffuser when you're not noticing. But you can, you might be surprised that somebody was spraying joy on your underwear all this time and you didn't know until all of a sudden one day you were like, I like that smell. So it's certainly possible. You can even trick your own self. I just think it's be super important, no matter where you're at. This last couple of years has been so hard. So I hope you get to watch Carla's replay on stress as well, for your body and what just the possibilities can be for finding that healthy aspect of walking through this time that we've all walked through together.
Fantastic. Anyone else? Any other questions real quick? Let's see here. Okay. Well, let's just stop the recording for a second. And thank you so much once again for coming with Monday Night Ignite. If you're new to this, we always have a health class at 7 p.m. Eastern, and then we have a business at 8 p.m. Eastern. And the replays will be posted by the end of this week. And we just thank you so much for participating. And please share this information out to help benefit everyone and help get oils in every home in the world. Thank you so much.